Boker Tov, Yom Tov, Laila Tov, no matter where you're at. This is Carrie. I would like to speak to you today to clarify a little bit about Mother's teaching. Some of you may have begun to watch Jim Staley's teachings or Matthew Nolan's teachings to help prepare yourself for the ability to jump into the Father's teachings, where you can actually begin to see the cipher, read the codes, and what we call methodology. First of all, you will probably realize that Matthew Nolan and Jim Staley are part of the Hebrew Roots movement, although they're kind of a division within the Hebrew Roots movement themselves, as one looks at the Book of the Covenant and one looks at the Book of the Law. They both have fantastic information. What I wanted to address with you today is the purpose of Mother's teaching. For some of you, as you look into these things, you will feel a pressure, you will feel a squeeze. There are a great many things that we've been indoctrinated to believe that don't hold a lot of truth to them. And Mother helps us to address things that we haven't addressed before. And I will share with you a couple of these things. Regarding holidays, I do not begrudge anyone to celebrate any holiday that they choose. That's their choice. And for me, when I went through the Hebrew Roots movement, I took a very black and white approach, and it was purposed. It was very purposed. Because what it allowed me to do was to audit the things that I was participating in. You know, why do we do these things? In fact, I want to share a little story to help prove a point. Little Susie is with her mom, and they are preparing Thanksgiving meal. They're fixing the turkey. And little Susie watches her mother lop the butt end off of the turkey. And she's surprised, and she looks at her mother and says, "Mom, why did you cut the back end of the turkey off?" And the mom looked at her and sat there for a second or two and said, "You know, my mom taught me how to do this, so I don't know exactly why. Why don't you ask Grandma?" And so little Susie goes and finds Grandma and asks Grandma simply, "Grandma, how come when you prepare the turkey you cut off the butt? You cut off the back end of the turkey?" And Grandma thinks about it for a second and says, "Well, you know what, I don't really know why I do that. My mom taught me. Why don't you go ask Great-Grandma?" So little Susie goes and marches in, and Great-Grandma's sitting in a rocking chair with a smile on her face, as content as can be. Little Susie marches up to her and says, "Great-Grandma, I asked Mom, and then she told me to ask Grandma, and then Grandma came and she told me to come to you and ask, why do we cut off the butt end of the turkey?" And the Grandma, without hesitation, looked at little Susie and said, "Well, that's easy. My oven was too small." So sometimes we do things without questioning why we do them. So it was a season for auditing for me. And what I found is that a lot of the holidays that I was involved with were deeply steeped in materialism, Christmas being one of them. And over the years, when I was participating in Christmas, it lost its meaning. It was about parties, and it was about food, and getting the house decorated, and buying the perfect gift. And it was so crazy and so hectic. And then I started seeing things show up in the stores, for Christmas, well before even Halloween. In fact, some stores, I won't name, would put Christmas things out in August. So I'm glad that I audited those things. And that's what Mother's teaching does. When you're raised this way as a child, you don't really question those things, like the turkey butt story. But as an adult, it is more challenging because we're already indoctrinated. We're already pre-programmed as to what we believe and what we don't believe. And so it's just simply a catalyst for you to explore things and begin to question. The other thing that will be addressed, and many people don't like this issue, is dietary things. When I came into the Hebrew Roots movement, I was very much wanting to do the Father's will. My husband and I both decided that. In fact, my husband would laughingly joke and say, if the Father wants me to dribble basketball, 3 times a day for 30 minutes, I'm going to do it. Now, that might be extreme for you guys, but I heard his heart and I understand it. So, we're not being asked to dribble a basketball. Excuse me. But what we are being asked to do is to look at things and see how they affect us. And food is a big one. As fitness instructors that we were for several years, probably the most angry people would get or highly frustrated is when we messed with our food. And I still see that today. Nobody wants their bacon messed with. But when you research these things, you begin to see why these dietary laws were put in place and the frequency of the food that we eat. What we are teaching requires the body's frequency to be elevated out of the lower base frequency so that you can actually see the spiritual nature and the spiritual path. And of course, I didn't know this at the time, so I just willingly did it. So, I cut out things that I enjoyed the taste of. But when I researched them, then it made a lot more sense as to why. I'm one of those people that need to know why. I've drove my parents nuts when I was younger because that's all I would say. They would tell me something and I'd say, well, why? And I'm sure if you have kids, you've probably had that experience yourself. But that really hasn't changed as an adult. I've affectionately called myself the queen of 1,000 questions because I'm always asking why. Once I have the why, it makes a lot more sense in applying my energy and my resources to whatever I'm doing. If I don't have a reason for it, I don't want to participate. So the food is based on frequency. And as you progress, some people end up going into becoming vegetarians and then to vegans. We have transformed our diet quite significantly, and right now we are more of a vegetarian/vegan type diet simply because the lower vibratory foods just don't sit well with us anymore. And I have to believe that it has to do with the studying of the languages. It just has changed our vibrational frequency, and it lost its flavor, so to speak. But Mother's job is to tame those beast ego natures within us so that we can vibrate higher. And so food is one of those issues. The 10 Commandments were put into place to help us tame the beast ego. And simply it can be summed up as the golden rule. We, being born having this beast ego nature parasite that sits on our amygdala and controls and rules us through fear, if it goes unchecked, it can cause problems in our learning. Take a look at many of an animal. I've used these examples before, and even with children, if we don't train and instruct them, they don't grow up very well in functioning in society in learning how to respect and honor one another. And because we went through a season where that wasn't, now we have laws or things put into place that is even a tighter restriction of honor and respecting in lots of crazy ways that I never thought I would see. And it's not even worthy of mentioning here, but I'm sure you probably understand what I'm saying. If we do it correctly, and Mother teaches correctly, then we tame the beast ego nature within so that we can rightly relate to people and rightly relate to Source, Creator, God, which is an external manifestation, an external orientation of how to work through life. And it's all about, once again, increasing our vibratory nature so that we don't have those beast instincts take over and keep us in a lower vibration. So I just wanted to share that with you because it is purposed. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. This is just what my husband and I went through, what we found. And because we were in the Hebrew Roots movement, they naturally were curious and would bring in the Hebrew words. And so it all led to where we are today. I see things much differently now. I'm not so bound by certain elements like I used to because I'm not manipulated by fear anymore. Some of the things in the Hebrew Roots movement that caused a great amount of fear just aren't there. Because I'm getting to the place where I just am. I'm in the moment with Source as the point of attention that I was created to be. And I have a lot more shalom and a lot more freedom because of it. So I hope this clarifies some things for you. The only other thing that I would suggest is that there are different methods out there as a mother's presentation without teaching the basic Hebrew letters. There are many practices that can help tame the beast ego. So I'm not saying that you need to do what we did. Again, I'm not telling anybody anything. Find something that works for you. Find something that makes you question and audit why you do things. Because really, we don't want to be at the place of do as thou wilt, because that's very beast-like. There are ways that we need to honor and respect one another, and honor and respect our bodies in the process of our spiritual journey. And that's what Mother teaches. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, if things aren't making sense, if you are challenged, please leave comments below. Ask questions. I want to be able to clarify as much as I can. Right now our channel is still small, so we have the ability to do that. And then hopefully as more people begin walking in this, we have more people that can help assist others that are coming in along the way. So I hope this finds you well. Shalom, shalom, and namaste.